This is the YMB and BTC podcast.
Cryptocurrency decrypted.
Welcome to episode 57. Today's show is all about an Ask Me Anything session that Andreas Antonopoulos recently conducted on Reddit. We found a list of his best responses that cover a wide range of crypto topics, and we'll be offering our own opinions as well. We'll touch on everything from Bitcoin's volatility, to altcoins, to mining centralization, and tons more. So stay tuned. Your hosts are Tim Baker, John Stuart, and myself, Daniel Brown. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to the show today. Thank you for joining us today, or tonight, or this afternoon, or whenever you happen to be listening to this. I am Daniel Brown, and I'm here with
Tim Baker
and John Stuart.
Literally nobody else I would rather be spending virtual time with on the internet.
I really hope that's not true, Daniel. That you'd rather be spending virtual time with on the internet. You could pick anyone that would be on the internet and talk to you, and you'd pick this.
I mean, I guess, yeah, now that I think about it. But still, I was still being pretty serious when I said it, so... Do you guys have good days? I guess it's nighttime for us, if anybody cares. We're just about coming up on midnight. We're getting into this late night recording habit, I guess, because that's the only time we're free. But anyway, do you guys have good days?
Not particularly, but...
Yeah, I mean, not really.
Well, see, I'll ask you again in an hour when we're done recording, and then it'll be an entirely different day that we're talking about, because it's 11:58 right now, and hopefully when I ask you in an hour, you can say you had a great day because you had a fun time recording, right?
There's 2 minutes left to this day, and I didn't think it could get any worse, and it just did after that.
Okay, well, I guess that's Tim's subtle expression that he wants to stop talking about this.
I wasn't subtle at all. That was just me not liking the joke.
All right, how about we shut up and move on?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
John's in charge tonight. Pretty soon it's going to be this morning. Anyway, I think I'm pretty excited for this little article we found. Andreas Antonopoulos, one of our favorite guys in Bitcoin. You probably know that. He's probably one of your favorite guys too. Just one of the smartest Bitcoiners out there. He does all kinds of things in the Bitcoin space, has lots of experience. I guess he literally wrote the book about Bitcoin. Something, I think it's called Understanding Bitcoin or something like that. I'm pretty sure that's not exactly it. But anyway, he knows what he's talking about. Awesome Bitcoin guy. We've had him on the show once. We interviewed him at Bitcoin in the Beltway. He speaks, well, I guess he hosts with Let's Talk Bitcoin. That's a huge influence on us, another Bitcoin podcast. They're awesome. And Antonopoulos hosts there. So anyway, point is, he's a great guy, knows about Bitcoin, and he did an AMA on Reddit recently, and we found on CoinDesk a collection of some of his best responses, and these are just great. I seriously, when I found these today, I was thinking we could just every one of these topics we could talk about. We could probably do a whole episode on each one of these topics. Just really important things, and then really important ideas from Antonopoulos, who obviously knows what he's talking about, like I've been saying. So I guess we'll go through one by one. I think there's 6 or 7 of them here. Maybe
11.
8 or 10. Holy cow, 11. All right.
Be why the title of the article is 11 top responses.
I didn't read the title, Tim. All I saw was Antonopoulos.
Like, Oh, Antonopoulos. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, that's what we're hoping people will say when they see our episode too. They won't see the episode 56. They'll just see Antonopoulos. Oh, I gotta listen to that one.
I mean, I would rather prefer that it be they see You Mean BTC's 56 episode and go, ooh, and then Antonopoulos is like, oh, that's better, but I know that's not true too. And
All right, I could see that. And hey, I think it's true for a couple people. Hey, actually, I've been speaking to a couple regular listeners recently, and I love it. I love knowing that people listen regularly. I love hearing encouragement from them. So if you do listen regularly, feel free to shoot me an email, send us a tweet, let us know absolutely anything that you're thinking about the show, ideas for topics. If you get bored when Tim talks, I mean, I have a special inbox for that. It's full all the time. So a point is, if you're a regular listener and you want to send some feedback, thoughts, anything at all, tips, as in tips, like how we can do better, let us know.
I'm pretty sure we'll take either kind.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll also
At least
take
I will.
money.
Yeah, we do take money.
I actually prefer that. I don't really take too well to criticism.
Yeah, you can grease the cheeks a little bit.
I actually...
Wait, is that a thing?
Don't say things like that.
Isn't that... Wait, no, is it...
I feel like I may have heard it before, but I didn't like it whenever I heard it before either.
Wait, is it grease
It might have been
like,
you saying...
Like gears,
Grease the
maybe.
wheel. Grease the gear, yeah.
Or wheels, yeah.
Yeah, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and you come up with grease the gear.
I think I messed it up a little bit.
I think this is completely wrong, but for some reason the phrase that's going through my head right now is grease the chicken.
What?
No.
Have you been reading cookbooks or something?
I don't think so. Anyway, I actually have a funny story about a tip us button. Well, it's not that funny. It's just an interesting story. But I want to jump into this article. So remind me to tell it at the end. Remind me to tell the tip us story, please. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and jump in. Oh, I just saw in the article, the name of the book that he wrote is Mastering Bitcoin. If anybody cares, check that out. I think it's actually open source, so I'm pretty sure he had a bunch of people giving him feedback and helping him to edit it and stuff. So, and I think you can get it for free too if you want online. So,
Isn't it on GitHub?
Yep, that's kind of what I meant.
Okay.
I guess that makes sense if people want to find it on GitHub. You're right.
I figured I'd let them know.
Tell them where it is. Yep.
You know me, always thinking of people. I'm just always so sweet.
It's true. Okay, so I'm going to jump in. Number 1 here. It says on Bitcoin's scalability, and then the next few sentences here are a direct quote from Antonopoulos on Reddit. There are many competing proposals to address scalability. For the most part, I don't think scale is an issue right now, though it may become an issue quite quickly. Bitcoin's consensus algorithm requires a very conservative approach to change, so I certainly think it is best to solve problems when they are actually problems and not before. Optimization and scaling should be done much later in the life cycle of a technology. Right now we're in the experimentation stage. However, it is important to continue to research possible optimizations and make sure that no design limitations are introduced. So that's a pretty important thought. I think one thing that I think matters a lot in Bitcoin is how he says the consensus algorithm requires a very conservative approach to change. That's kind of one of the core features of Bitcoin, don't you guys think? How if you ever want to change something, you pretty much have to get everybody to agree. And you guys tell me if you think this metaphor is right. I know we've talked about how this is a little bit like democracy, but also kind of revamping democracy in a much better way. we've sort of mentioned that stuff before. It was probably really early on in the show, first few episodes. Anyway, it seems like this idea that in order to change something, yes, you need everybody in a way, but anybody who doesn't enact a change, I mean, I guess it depends. There are different ways to change things. You can loosen the rules, or you can make the rules more strict, and that could make differences and stuff. But in a general sense, usually, if people reject a change, then it's a fork. Instead of like democracy, where the winner is all of a sudden in charge and their ideas and their plans just go, it's more of a fork where both things happen just separately. To me, that would seem more voluntary, where you get to go with the one that you choose. I know that's not a perfect comparison, but do you guys think that makes any sense?
Well, it's not kind of voluntary, it is voluntary. And I don't, like, maybe went after you a little bit with this before when we were talking. I don't know how much of it you cut, but it was probably 2 weeks ago whenever you were talking about fractional reserve banking and using that phrase, and I went after it, and basically out of a semantics thing, but you're saying, like, this is like a democracy thing, but it's not really. And the reason why it's not really is because it's not a political system. Democracy is a political system.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not. Which I don't think that's like, you're not the only one who does that. I think everybody does that. Just like, oh, this no one said. Well, I mean, I guess sometimes they do. Some people do say stuff like a dictatorship in like a peer group where like no one has any kind of actual authority over the other one. They're just the one who kind of controls stuff. But I don't know. Democracy, I think, gets used a little bit. The word gets used a little bit too much, and people, especially in the West, I mean, probably anywhere. I don't know of anyone who's like, oh, democracy is bad. Any like significant group of people, but in our Western, or again, I didn't mean to say Western, our mind in general, democracy just sounds good.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's how people are raised, kind of, at least in America, probably some other places too. And yeah, it's kind of weird to realize, wait, that doesn't make as much sense as they say. But what do you think about Bitcoin here, though? Do you think, what does it have in common with democracy, and do you think that's a good thing? And what does it have that's obviously different than Bitcoin or than democracy, and do you think that's a good thing?
It doesn't have anything to do with democracy. Bitcoin's a technology. You're not asking
me
what
know.
the
how about this?
No, what I mean is you're the question you're asking me is like asking me what the like what kind of Bitcoin, let's call it a cryptocurrency, to, we'll say you're telling me to buy, what about Mac computers? How does that relate to communism? And actually I could try to make that point more, because most of the people who have Apple computers are communists, but yes. Because
it says, Antonopoulos calls it right here a consensus algorithm. And
yeah, it's like a okay.
That's what democracy is. You determine what the consensus is, what everybody believes, and then you decide how to implement that data.
No, democracy is you do what the majority says. It's not
right. That's the way democracy does it.
And there's no problem with that. That's what works in a group if you want to decide stuff.
Let me just forget democracy if that's what it takes to get you to answer the question. Do you think Bitcoin's consensus algorithm is good or bad? Or what do you think is good about it? What do you think might be bad about it?
I mean, it's good. It's necessary, because if you're going to have people accepting currencies, you need some kind of like an agreement over all that stuff. And I don't really see anything bad about it. I mean, that's what you have to do. I can't be like there's nothing. I don't know why this keeps on coming into my head, so might not be the best example, but the trains, the old West, or whenever railroads and locomotives were starting to get big in the world, and we were building them over here, or not we, Americans were building them over here, and they ended up just making them all universal, and everything like that. Like you need, like at first it wasn't like that, so it was broken up. But obviously the internet, you can make everything the same just right when you start.
I think so, when you say universal, do you mean like standard track sizes and just patterns and stuff? Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no reason not to. It's not like it's. I mean, you could maybe argue that, I don't know, then the people who used to make this standard, I don't know. Never mind.
Actually, okay. Well, I don't know what you were going to say either, but I do like where we're at, and I think it flows pretty darn perfectly into the next topic here. So, one of you two want to read it?
Well, okay.
And then I'll try and describe how it relates, or at least how I see it relating.
I'll read it. On favoring Bitcoin over altcoins, and he says, it is actually very difficult to bootstrap a successful currency that is necessary to back the security of the network. It took 3 years for Bitcoin to evolve to a level where attacks against the consensus algorithm became very difficult. Bitcoin has a tremendous network effect, in my opinion, which may give it an insurmountable early mover advantage. In technology, it is often not the best technology that wins, but the one that achieves broad enough adoption and recognition early enough. Good enough beats best if deployed broadly. Yeah,
so I think that kind of the idea of the network effect there is kind of like the standards you were talking about with, even with railroads. You need standards. You need a standard. I don't know the dictionary definition, but the way I would describe it is a standard is something that is common, across people and across space and borders and wherever.
You can't use different versions of Bitcoin.
Right, exactly. And so his point here is interesting because it's a very true point, but in some ways it kind of makes you feel bad because it's like, oh, we might not have the best thing. But his point is that
we're never going to have the best thing.
Well, you're right.
But the best thing is always going to be too expensive. The best is what people who make $1 million a week get. But for like people in general, it's just good enough because the best is. I mean, I guess you can measure it by different things, but the best is just like too much. The best is you don't need the best.
Yeah.
Because then what if everything breaks?
You're ripping my words apart.
It's not even that. Well, I mean, it is
I'm
that.
in a very bad mood, Daniel.
It is that, but I think it's also just people are, like, human beings are just horrible at making decisions. So with these kind of things, it's like you just have to pick something. It's the same thing with the railroad standards. It's like if they made the tracks 2 centimeters wider, does it make that much of a difference? Not really. You just have to pick something.
Get a much smoother ride.
Yeah. Yeah, trust me. I agree with your point about not making decisions, or about being bad at making decisions. Or at least I think you two would agree about that with me.
I don't know. I think I'm just as bad as you are.
Anyway, what were you going to say, Tim? I guess I was just going to keep saying that, yeah, you need Bitcoin to be similar across different things, and that's the thing, like, if people have a problem with how Bitcoin's going, if you want to have something that's has more of an encryptable or more natural encryption, you just go make your own. It's open source. I don't know what exactly you can do with the code, so if I sound retarded whenever I say go take the code and put it in and then fix it and say stuff like that, I don't care. But you can do that, and we've seen that with several different coins. It's just a lot of them, they don't have, not as many people are interested. A lot of people don't want to even be bothered by changing their address a few times with Bitcoin, let alone wanting to encrypt it and use multi-sig accounts and do all this stuff with it. But also, it doesn't have, not as many people know it, not as many people are accepting it, so it doesn't have the ability to grow like Bitcoin does. So then going to that, like Bitcoin, like they're like, so like people ask me, so do you think Bitcoin's like this? I'm like, I mean, it's better than the dollar, but I mean, it's not the best thing ever.
The only reason I'm interrupting you is because I finally noticed this happening.
Okay.
In while we were recording, you said that people say, "Do you think Bitcoin is like this?" And then you skipped whatever people think it might be like, and then you kept talking. You cut out in the middle of your sentence and just skipped to the end. What do people ask you if Bitcoin might be like?
I thought I said this great currency.
Yeah, you never said great currency.
You sure I didn't just slur?
You
Yeah,
just
Tim, you do that a lot.
Okay, all right. I didn't know it was that bad.
I
Okay.
notice that all the time while I'm editing, and I'm like, oh, finally I caught you, and I want to know what you were gonna say.
Okay.
It's funny that you actually think you said it.
Yeah.
That's really
I'm probably
interesting.
thinking about it. Like, I tend to think about what I say like way beforehand because I think it's going to help me not fuck it up, but it doesn't. Obviously. I apologize. Oh, if Bitcoin is this great, amazing currency, and I just say, okay, I guess I should probably start before that about people.
No, go ahead. I'm probably gonna leave most of that in. It's funny.
Okay.
No, I think people will like that. Anyway, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, okay. I just say that, no, I don't think it's this perfect, amazing currency. I mean, I like it better than the dollar. I think it works for a lot of things, but you're never going to get the perfect thing. And especially, he says how in the first point about Bitcoin scalability, he mentions Bitcoin's, like, the algorithm and everything. It takes a very conservative approach to change. That's also just because they have to be very careful with fixing stuff.
Yeah,
right?
that's a good
I mean,
point.
that's that same thing. And if you're dealing with that big of an economy, which is not huge compared to the dollar, like it's a blip on the radar. Maybe I'm not thinking of the right thing. Like in a bar graph between the amount of money going through it, it's very, very small compared to the dollars. But still, you're doing that and you're trying to fix it while also not completely destroying that economy by just like breaking a little bit of something. So I almost don't want them to mess with Bitcoin that much.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like I was getting to a while ago, in a way it kind of stinks because you think, oh, it's not going to be perfect. And then, but then you also think about it and you're like, oh, well, I guess nothing's ever perfect. And it's still an awesome thing. So
I might have heard somebody say this before. I don't think it's an original thought of mine, but just while we're on this subject, I've heard, so I guess, yeah, what you're saying is like, as Bitcoin gets bigger and stuff, I think there's more and more incentive for people to be really careful about not messing it up. I think I've heard somebody say before that altcoins are valuable almost just as like an experiment. So if some altcoin comes up with a really good idea and it works, maybe you can add that to Bitcoin or something. So it's a way to experiment without like just screwing everything up.
yeah, definitely. I think I've heard multiple people say that. And yeah, a great way to experiment. And we'll see if they learn anything good. And I guess the nice thing about that is if an altcoin goes really well, then a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times those features can be put into Bitcoin. So, okay, well, if we go at this pace, this is going to be like a 6-hour episode. So,
Oh, maybe you have to make up for all those little 35-minute episodes you've been putting out.
that's
Daniel.
true. Well, hey, if you guys want to stay up, I'll go as
No, I
long
doubt
as you guys
John does.
want. So,
I'll do
yeah,
this.
somebody just jump in and read one.
On the cause of Bitcoin's recent price drop. Sentiment disconnected from fundamentals driving a tiny pool of liquidity into whiplash reaction. And I'm surprised I said that without messing that up.
That's like a bunch of $10 words.
Yeah, what does that even mean? There aren't enough...
Okay. Okay. Sentiment disconnected from fundamentals. So it's a bunch of people who don't really give a shit. They're just trying to... And then he says driving a tiny pool of liquidity. So a lot, like a little bit, but enough money that's going to change it around because these people are like, oh no, the price is dropping a little bit, let's all sell, into a whiplash reaction, which is that selling. I'll continue the quote and then we'll see if that works. I don't know how you're going to work with that, Daniel, but
That's
Bitcoin
fine.
continues to work at a broad range of prices and is dynamically adapting to the price change. Bitcoin will remain, in my opinion, a relentless anomaly that refuses to go away, a black swan that cannot be ignored or extinguished.
So I think the most important words in that first complicated sentence, are disconnected from fundamentals, which probably just means that, yeah, like you said, Tim, there's people who don't understand the fundamentals and they invest for the wrong reasons. And then the other thing, also like you were saying, Tim, the tiny pool. It's just a small market, so it's easy to manipulate if people don't understand the fundamentals. So I think that's the main thing there. And then I think it's really cool that he says it's never going to go away.
Well, he doesn't think.
That's one of those shot in the dark predictions that we've been having for a couple episodes now. But
I think I'd argue with that, just for the sake of arguing mostly. Well, I'd argue that it will never go away. I kind of hope it does. I really hope stuff gets better.
Never. Oh, yeah, obviously never. Yeah.
Oh, wait, he doesn't change that. I mean, he doesn't say that.
Okay, that's true. You're right. He just says relentless.
I was just going after your language again. I apologize, Daniel. Let's try to stop taking it out on you.
Yeah. I mean, he almost says that. Relentless, and it refuses to go away. It cannot be extinguished, but still, he's using hyperbole, and it's still cool to imagine that it'll be around for a while. Hey guys, I want to tell you about Wall of Coins, a brand new and very handy service for trading Bitcoin. The platform is designed to enable anyone to get their hands on some Bitcoin. Buyers are quickly connected to an authorized, trusted seller within the Wall of Coins network. Just set a dollar amount for your order, safely pay at a bank near you, and you instantly own more Bitcoin. Buyers don't even have to create an account, so anyone can have access to Bitcoin. Got some extra coin lying around? With Wall of Coins, you can sell it for cash, available immediately in your bank account. Visit wallofcoins.com right now to see just how easy it is.
Okay. On why, quote, average people should use Bitcoin to experience the future of money, to gain a glimpse into an exciting technology, to learn about how money could be in the future and also become aware of how limited money and banks are today. For the other, quote, 6 billion who don't enjoy international control-free banking as we do, Bitcoin represents an opportunity to become part of a global economy which up until now did not exist. For those users, Bitcoin is more than just a curiosity. It might be a doorway to connect to the world.
I think this is pretty cool because there are a lot of cool things about Bitcoin, and we can tell people about those things all the time, and we do tell them. But the problem is, even if you tell them that it's cheap, even if you tell them that it's pretty darn instant, no matter what you tell them, a lot of times they're going to just be like, not worth checking it out right now. Sounds cool, but I'm not worried about it right now. My money works fine. And that's okay. They can, if they're happy with their money. I mean, I disagree. I think there's something better, but I don't care if you just want to sit there on your dollars. That's fine. But the cool thing here is that he says to experience the future of money and to gain a glimpse into an exciting technology. That's pretty cool too. It doesn't matter how fast or how cheap it is, how easy it is. It's just cool. It's the future of money. It's exciting. So just have fun with it. And also, it is also the future. So it's not like we're saying you have to do it now because this is what money is. No, it's the future of money. So if you want to experience it, if you think it's exciting and you want to try it out, go for it. Because eventually, this will be what things are like, probably. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Whenever I first saw that, I actually thought he was going to say what money could be and just have like that be the thought, because that's part of what I would say is just like the possibility. But he also, I guess that could still be what he means because he says what it could be in the future, but just the idea of having, again, in like our age, how advanced we've gotten away from stuff like this, but now we're back to something that's more like you control the money, you hold the money. So that's just cool to me.
Yeah, and he also says to become aware of how limited money in banks are today. This is actually really interesting because he never really talks about the features of Bitcoin. He just, I'm glancing through it again. He doesn't really say that it's how cheap or how fast or how easy it is. He says that the future will be better and the current system is limited. Those are his main points, and I think that's an interesting way to look at it. Kind of a broad, overarching idea that it's just better and it's the future. So,
well, also, it's not just like, it is the future. I mean, it could be the future. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but it could be.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to go after your language there. It could be, but also it's just like most people nowadays. It's just there's not, and I'm not saying this as a. I mean, I am because I'm a petty person. I'm saying it as a barb against people who don't, but I'm being very hypocritical because I do the same thing. It's a lot more fun to just, at first at least, probably, it's a lot more enjoyable to just sit and just mindlessly go through Reddit and just, even if you can kind of trick yourself into thinking you're doing something productive by reading about learning stuff on Reddit, but still it's like it sucks in your time versus learning about cryptocurrency, learning about Bitcoin. It's just it broadens your horizons. It gives you more things to talk about. It opens up new ways of thinking in your mind. Like a lot of just ideas for people seem to come where like they don't come from the same field that they're in necessarily. They have, okay, I heard about this and I want to try to apply it to this. And it's just, there needs to be more of a desire to learn, I guess, beyond like high school or beyond inside of a classroom, but to learn about things and kind of get involved with them for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Trying new things and doing things for yourself. Yeah, I think I totally agree. All right, anybody want to grab the next one?
On where he sees Bitcoin in 1 year. It's still far too early. Bitcoin is at the same stage as the internet in 1992, 1993. At that time, it took Unix command line skills to send email. No way near ready for mainstream adoption. However, while it took almost 20 years from the day I sent my first email until my mom used her iPad to send her first email, Bitcoin is likely to be adopted on a much more accelerated schedule. After all, there's no need to deploy much infrastructure. You can just download an app. Overall, I will expect people will be surprised by how fast the technology and adoption evolve rather than the opposite. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one because I don't know if history is on his side.
As far as...
Yeah, why? What's not on his side?
Well, he's just saying, I don't think the infrastructure is the only thing. Pretty much every like adoption for technological innovations is pretty much always measured in decades, not years. And
okay.
I mean, it's not that far from now that Bitcoin was 2009 when it was first introduced.
Right.
I mean, it's only 4 more years and it'll have been a decade already. And
wow, that is true, yeah.
I still don't think
That's
it's
weird.
Yeah. I still don't think it's like anywhere near mainstream. And I think it's not just because of the infrastructure. I think he's right about saying that it's primed to be adopted, but that doesn't mean that people are ready for it. I mean, is it him or is it Jeffrey Tucker that always talks about how people thought steel was evil when it came out?
Yeah, that was Tucker, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think like something like that where it's so clearly superior to everything beforehand and there's literally no reason to not just start using it right now. It still takes people a while.
Right.
Yeah, well, especially something if it's true that it's supposed to be accelerated, I don't know if you said this like right at the beginning when you started talking, but it should have been a lot faster because of, how long you said it's been, and you can't just download an app. So, shouldn't it be, like, I don't think it's that confusing too. I don't think that, like, comparing Unix command line skills and signing up for a BitPay wallet are the same in the difficulty.
Right. I think you might be able to say, like, take a subset of this whole internet evolution. You could take maybe email and see when was email first started, and then when did people start using it fairly often. That would be a shorter span than the whole evolution of the internet. Does that make sense? And that might be a better metaphor, because there is not so much infrastructure related to email as there was with the internet in general.
Well, yeah, that's true, because the internet started in the 60s.
Right. And that's part of the reason I was trying to say for a while, I think I would argue, well, it's not an argument, it's just whatever you think, but I don't think 20 years is really even that long. If Bitcoin hit mainstream within 20 years, I would be completely happy. That seems perfect to me, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be like 40 years until it, but I'm guessing it's going to be at least over a decade, which is about, well, he said 20 years. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it took that long. I wouldn't hold out hope that, I don't know. It'll probably be less than 20 years, I guess, but I definitely think it's going to be more than a decade.
Yep, and I guess we'll see.
I don't know. I'm probably going to eat those words in like 2 years.
We're making more wild predictions. I think, what is this, probably 3 episodes in a row of just who knows what?
Well, that's what's entertaining, is we'll be right or we'll be wrong, and people will say, oh, did you hear those idiots on there, and they were wrong, and people feel better about it.
Hey,
that's what people want to hear.
It's late at night and I've had a beer. I'm feeling crazy. I'm going to say it's going to take over a decade.
Oh, man.
I'm feeling wild tonight.
He's getting a little loose with his tongue. Anyway, yeah, I'll do the next one. On the centralization of mining. I actually really like this one. It ebbs and flows. I don't see it as a problem. I trust the market to dynamically adapt. The consensus algorithm creates a set of incentives that reward good actors and punish bad actors. So far, it is working better than anyone expected. The reason I like that one is just because he says, I trust the market. I trust the market. I think the incentives are there. If mining centralization happens and it's a bad thing, then it'll stop happening eventually over time as the market balances. If there's not enough centralization and we need more pools or whatever you want to have, then the market will give us that. And I think I agree that it's working pretty well. The only way that you could argue maybe could be if you don't think the incentives are right. If you think the incentives are there, yes, but the incentives encourage you to do something bad or wrong. I mean, that's always a possibility. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what every incentive out there is in Bitcoin. I don't know what people are trying to do all the time and what they could profit from and stuff like that. But I think I would generally agree with him. Just that it's working all right so far. So, do you guys trust the market?
Yeah, I mean, I might as well. I don't know if that makes sense. Like he says, it's worked a lot better than really anyone expected so far. So, I mean, there's always that chance that because it's not controlled by an iron fist, that it can go bad anyway, but there's always that feeling like, well, it's not like no one's actually in control of it, so what happens if all these bad actors work together at the same time? But in general, not that many bad actors work together at the same time, and bad actors aren't normally that great at working together, so it's hard to, you don't normally get that thing that everyone tries to warn you about as far as getting taken advantage of.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Like you were saying, the only thing is really like if the incentives are somehow wrong, because even if you trust the market, Bitcoin isn't the market. There could be still something wrong with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I think the whole point of this is like if there is something wrong with it, then it'll get thrown by the wayside. So.
Yep. And that's another thing that it's also kind of a prediction, and we just have to see what happens. Do we centralize or don't we? I also, just for fun, I'll mention real quick that I just today had some interesting things happen, and I might be getting into mining again. Just a little bit, and mostly just for fun. And I'll let people know how it goes if I do that, so.
That was really vague.
No, yeah. No, I don't know if it was vague, maybe just quick and simple. I mean, maybe it sounded vague, but it actually, I said everything that is true. That's about all there is to it, is I'm thinking about getting into it again. There's not a whole lot more to it.
Oh, well, I thought you said something like things happened or whatever.
Oh.
You're like, things happen, and I'm like getting into mining.
Yeah, no, you're right. I see now. Yeah, you're right. That sounds pretty weird.
I've been sucked into gambling.
Well, that probably has happened too, but anyway. Okay, so I'll grab the next one. On non-user-friendly Bitcoin addresses. And this is his response. When I first used the internet, I had a list of IP addresses folded up in my wallet. Those were the days before DNS. My first email was sent to an IP address. There are already many active proposals to replace and hide addresses. I expect they will disappear just like IP addresses are hidden from most users' view. I think that is a really simple idea. I think the analogy is absolutely perfect, and I don't know if there's really much more to say. They'll probably just get replaced just like IP addresses.
I think there's something else that we can learn from this.
All right.
Andreas was an OG. Because that's pretty far back, sending an email to an IP address. The only reason I point that out is because it gives him probably more authority when talking about things like Bitcoin becoming prevalent, because he was on the internet back when people thought it was just a stupid computer game or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Do you want to tell me what OG means?
You never heard
original
that?
Gangster.
Oh.
He's an original gangster. That's the whitest way you can say it.
An original.
Yep. No, I think I agree.
We should start billing ourselves as the whitest Bitcoin podcast.
that was good. All right, who wants to do non-reversible charges?
I can do that. On non-reversible charges can be addressed in a number of ways. I recently did a presentation in Sydney, Australia, where I talked about using automated escrow with multi-signature addresses and time-locked transactions to achieve simple consumer protection and chargebacks on the Bitcoin protocol. It's programmable money. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, that's kind of fascinating to me. I can't say I could figure out how you would quite do reversible transactions with multi-sig and time-locked transactions. Yeah, I can't say I can understand or figure out how they would do that, but I'm sure it's possible. And then, like he says at the end, just it's programmable, so kind of anything's possible.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say that I understood it, but I like what you said about it.
I'm not saying I don't believe him. I'm just saying I can't. I'm not that smart.
No, I wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying that either. I was just pointing out that I'm not
that smart either.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty obvious. If you're not going to understand it, I'm not really going to get it. As long as it has to do with important internet things. If it has to do with news or slang on the internet, I might be a better one to go to, except for acronyms. I'm really bad on acronyms.
What does AMA stand for?
Ask me anything.
Oh. I thought it was Andreas.
This is going to be even worse, and it's already the next day, Daniel, and you're going to ask us how was your day, and it was already bad anyway.
The whitest podcast just got whiter.
Oh, come on. There has to be something good. Andreas.
No, there doesn't have to be something good.
Andreas makes. Oh, come on. We got to figure something out.
No, we don't.
I already started it.
Yeah, you already sound stupid.
I've been thinking recently that the tech world has way too many acronyms. Like, once you start getting into computers, the number of acronyms that you become aware of just increases exponentially constantly.
Yeah, I wish I could remember what it was, because I was probably just today or yesterday, I was typing something and I was thinking pretty much the exact same thing. Holy cow, that's a lot of abbreviations, and it's kind of funny that they actually know what I'm talking about. I wish I could give you the actual example, but I don't remember, so you'll just have to guess.
Yeah, it's like anything with computers, it just, I don't know why, they just went
Yeah.
crazy with it. I guess because a lot of it just sounds ridiculous if you say the words full out.
Universal Serial Bus. That's the first one I thought of.
Yeah, I keep thinking of TCP/IP.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know what TCP is.
It's Transmission Control Protocol, I think.
Yeah, and then IP is Internet Protocol. Anyway, yeah. I agree. It's crazy. Okay, anyone want to do volatility?
On Bitcoin's volatility, I expect Bitcoin's volatility will decline in direct relation to the size of the currency market. As Bitcoin is adopted more broadly, it supports a bigger economy, more people rely on it, and price things in it, it becomes harder and harder to push it around for speculators. That, of course, assumes transparent markets or exchanges that are not manipulated. And yeah, I agree with him because, yeah, I mean, the bigger market's going to be harder to move around by people going, oh, it went down a little bit, we need to sell, going back to his first point about that what caused no, not his first point. I don't care which one it was, but about the price dropping is because it's very easy for, if you have like a decent amount of money, it doesn't take much to have a decent chunk enough to make the market really react whenever you sell.
Yeah, I think that's a really straightforward answer, and we've probably explained that kind of stuff before. I think, right? I think we've already kind of answered this question just in general. I think we already knew this. I mean, do you think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
We know everything about Bitcoin, don't we?
Yeah,
Shut up,
obviously.
Daniel.
We're doing a podcast on it. We must know everything.
Well, I will say another minor grammatical error, possibly. It doesn't decline in direct relation to the market. I think it declines inversely with the market. As the market grows, volatility declines. Or if the market shrinks, then volatility can increase. It's an inverse relationship, but we knew what he meant. I'm not going to pull a Tim here, even though I already did. We have 2 quick ones left. I want to do the last one. Who wants the next one?
I'll do it. On VC investments in Bitcoin in 2015, VC is venture capitalism, in case, as we're talking about acronyms. Yeah, it's funny. I actually didn't, when I was reading and I didn't know what it meant, and then as I was finishing the sentence, I was like, wait, what does that mean? And then I remembered. So yeah, too many acronyms. I think the investment in Bitcoin startups and the related ecosystem will grow even faster in 2015. Most exciting technology is not only attracting investors, but also some of the smartest techies, devs, and designers I've ever met.
I think it is important, though. I mean, this isn't for certain. I guess we're making more predictions. But I would almost expect, and maybe we're already kind of in the middle of it, I would almost expect a little bit of a bubble in the Bitcoin investment area, and I would expect it to collapse to some extent at some point and to hurt some people. Just because, I mean, that happened with the internet. I think they call it the dot-com boom or whatever. I mean, as soon as it does start to become a lot more popular, everyone gets excited about it and just starts throwing money at anything. They used to say that they would throw money at anything that had a .com in it. Now they'll throw money at anything that has a block or a coin or a chain, anything like that in it. And I mean, I guess that does happen already a lot with altcoins, but I think even with like wallets or like marketplaces or exchanges, all these kind of just infrastructure businesses, people are going to start them all over the place. They already are starting them everywhere. There is going to be a ton of investment, and there probably isn't going to be room for all of them. So I would expect a little bit of a bubble.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, I think about this a lot, actually, and I probably started thinking about it around when we went to the conference in the summer, because everybody's talking about how they have like this startup, and yeah, everybody has this new thing, and it's probably just because I'm a misanthropic, cynical person, but I'm like, well, everybody's not gonna do this. And it's like this with anything, like you were saying with the internet, with the .com bubble. I think that's the perfect comparison. Anytime when something new starts out, everybody is kind of on an even playing field. And I think we've talked about this before, even with the podcast. It's easier for us to do a podcast about something like Bitcoin where there aren't already 500,000 podcasts.
Right.
And so we can establish ourselves without having to fight off these huge people who've already taken a huge share of the market. And I think this just happens with anything. Things get more homogenous, and like certain entities arise that are kind of the big shots, and that's just kind of how things go.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that Let's Talk Bitcoin and their network probably drowns us out to some extent, but they are by no means as big as, I don't know, what would be a huge podcast, like Celebrity News or something. There's got to be hundreds of those, and a ton of competition there. And competition in Bitcoin is nothing compared to that.
Well, yeah, I was just, the other day, someone was telling my sister, who's like into cooking and stuff, telling her that she should make a food blog, and she's like, that it's way oversaturated. Like I would have to come up with some genius idea if I was going to do that, because it's just, there's just thousands of them on the internet. No, probably way more than, probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of those.
Yeah. And again, we are already seeing this a little bit in Bitcoin, because there are news sites and blogs and things popping up everywhere for Bitcoin. But again, it's not quite as bad as it probably will be eventually. So, sweet. Ready to wrap this up? Last one?
Yep.
The first and last thing he bought with Bitcoin. The first thing, I bought a pound of coffee for about $1,200 in today's money in 2011. I want to comment on that first. That's kind of cool, because it was either first or second things. One of the really early on things that I bought was coffee. I might have bought silver first. I don't remember, but I think it's cool. Coffee and Bitcoin, they go together, right?
Yeah, I think coffee might have been my first thing.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Anyway, and then the last thing, this is kind of interesting too. A physiotherapy session for about $80 yesterday. Anybody know what physiotherapy is?
Yeah, I looked it up. It seems like they just like help you with an injury. They help you with a little bit of movement, like therapy with that, and also with teaching you how to do things so that it doesn't hurt in the future, or so that you don't. I think, or like that's the idea that I got. Was it almost like teaching you how to do things without injuring. Like if you have shoulder problems, teaching you a way to how to pick things up without hurting the shoulder more.
That makes sense. And that is kind of fascinating because it's kind of weird. I wouldn't expect... Well, I wouldn't really expect somebody like that to be into Bitcoin, but if they know Antonopoulos, or if Antonopoulos is one of your clients, you probably accept Bitcoin. So, or you will in the near future.
That's maybe a catch-22, because he might only go to places that accept Bitcoin as well.
Yeah. That might be right too. Which comes first, Antonopoulos or the Bitcoin acceptor? Anyway, cool. Well, this was fun, and I think we definitely, like I expected, we talked about this stuff for a while. We're over an hour now, so at least in recording time. Who knows how long it'll be after editing. Gotta cut out Tim's 20-minute rant, right? I'm joking. Tim didn't.
Wait, really? You're joking?
Tim didn't rant for 20 minutes.
You sure I'm joking?
It was about
30
18
minutes.
How about you tell me to calm down again, Daniel? How about everybody just tells me to calm down?
Tim,
calm down.
Calm down.
Calm down. Are you okay?
Anyway, anything before we close, guys? I do have to tell my story, but if there's anything... I mean, it's really quick and really simple, but just anything else on physiotherapy or something before we close? I'm going to take that as a no. Okay, sweet. So yeah, I'll just tell this real quick. It's not that special, but there's a website, theverge.com. I don't know. I'm sure I've been there plenty of times, but it seems like articles and news and stuff. And I was reading something there. It was probably about Bitcoin because that's all I ever read, but I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was just scrolling down, and I saw at the bottom there was a button that said tip us. I'm like, oh, cool. I know how to tip people. I have a tip us button on our blog too and stuff like that. So I clicked the button, and I was kind of expecting Bitcoin tips because it's kind of a techie website, at least parts of it are. But it was not at all. It was like, do you have a story for us? Do you want to advertise with us? Stuff like that. It was more of just like a contact us form. It wasn't give us money. So I checked one of the boxes. It was like, I have a suggestion or something for your site. And I just wrote, I'm like, well, I thought the tip us button meant like send us money. So is there any way I can send you some Bitcoin? And they haven't responded yet, but if they do, I will let everybody know. Sorry, that wasn't that special. It's just an interesting thing that happened, and I'll keep everybody updated.
Okay. Yay!
Yeah, I mean, if they accept it, I'll send them some. So they should, I guess. Thanks for listening to episode 57. All of the music in today's show was from John Stuart. If you have a second, head over to youmeandbtc.com, find this week's show notes, and leave a comment. I'd especially love to hear if you know something funny that AMA could stand for. We'll see you next Thursday.